Hi, this is Sandy Sims with the Accord Sequarallel. This video tutorial is the first of 3 covering the remote control functions, which will focus on MIDI CC remotes. As you can see, I'm setting up a couple of tracks trackers. The first will have some remote elements assigned, while the second is just a simple percussion. Some tracks note effects like echo feed and mask size will be added. A parametrically drawn envelope is added to cover adjusting envelope size via remote. The envelope output will be patched into the CC5 jack to subtly change Tracks 1's mirror value. Any MIDI CCs or notes on the set remote channel will be checked to see if there was a parameter attached to it from either the song number's own remote lists or the global list. Ensure that your MIDI channel for remote is set before doing anything else. Now in Tracks 1A, you can see there's 2 notes in lane 1 with note effects. These will have remote control to some parameters. The MIDI channel from this tracks is MPE Zone 0, so lane 1 is channel 2 and lane 2 is channel 3, just for the bass notes to accompany those in lane 1. The note effects for both notes in lane 1 have 7 echoes with some microarp offsets. One remote control will be modifying the start parameter. Another will be changing the size of this note effect's mask map. So let's have a listen. Notice the mask moving along will disable the second note. Once we change the size, it will toggle their note effects differently. The envelope is a simple parametrically generated sine wave ping that will be patched into CC5 input. CC5 input's function is to modify the Tracks 1 mirror. The point of that is the envelope speed will be remote controlled. So back to Tracks 1A. The first remotes to learn will be for the note lengths. In Remote, I'll turn on Learn for this song project only. It's already set to use the song lists first, but it could be set to song only if you plan to ignore any global lists that are already present. These CCs will start at CC11, which is the first slider on my controller. So the Remote Learn is armed and ready to go. Back to Tracks 1's first note length. The flashing S LED verifies we are in remote learning mode. I have added a piece of masking tape to my UC33 MIDI controller to show what each slider will do. Once the parameter is highlighted, moving the control will enter it into the list, and the highlight will change. In the immediate time, the control can be tested, but this expires when other selections are made, just by clicking on the knob. You can hear the change has worked, but the display won't show the new value unless selected again. Selecting it again ruins the testing phase because it's assumed a new parameter is being sent to learn. So now to set the second note's length. The learn method is always pretty quick once you get the hang of it. Now the echo feed slider is next. Now for the micro ARP start point. The delay slider is for the second of our two controlled notes. While we're here, let's get the Note Effects mask map size parameter in. The envelope speed under remote control will cover the full range from 1 tick to 8 clocks, just like on the display, or 192 ticks. In the playlist, this track's 1A has 4 separate blocks, so the groups 1 to 4 register in the Jump to Quick box as G1 to G4. The slider will cause these to be armed. Each block has a different playlist transpose offset, which is the purpose of it. Finally, the track's limit parameter. This track's QB is scaled to a custom user 1 scale. I did this so the mirror changes don't produce any untoward notes in our little example. So there, limit is in. Press the S button to terminate the remote learn function. Now we can play with the sliders. Time for some tweaking. Using a CC for jump is rather unorthodox. Remote notes would much better serve the purpose, which we'll be covering in the next video on remotes. So let's try changing note lengths. Increasing the echo feeds makes the MIDI voices much louder, while the VCOs of course remain the same. If Jack Row 1's CC1 was set to velocity and patched to a VCA, the VCO would follow suit. Changing micro ARP start rotates the transpose sequence. The delay on note 2 is really noticeable. This might also be better under remote notes control. Let's patch the envelope into CC5 input. It's really subtle as the valid mirror range is crossed, but there are variations as the phase aligns properly. The smaller mask size allows echoes to be applied continuously, as both notes' note effects are on. Track's limit is below a relative note in the lower half, or above a relative note in the upper half. Here's the remote list now, from CC11 to CC19. Stay tuned for Remote Control Part 2, using MIDI Notes to control parameters. I hope this tutorial has helped familiarize you with the MIDI CC remote control functions of the Sequarallel. I'm Sandy Sims, thanks for watching.